Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and before anything else, I need you to really take this in. Not as casual advice you scroll past, but as something that actually connects to real human behavior and real emotional dynamics. Because what I'm about to share isn't just about attraction on the surface level, it's about what quietly happens underneath it when two people start forming a bond without even realizing it. And the truth is that most men completely miss the moment when a connection stops being casual and starts becoming emotionally significant. Not because they are careless, but because nobody ever taught them what to look for beneath the words, beneath the smiles, beneath the normal flow of conversation. And when you miss that moment, you don't just miss a chance. You miss understanding the entire direction a relationship is heading before it ever becomes obvious. And that is exactly why this matters. Because emotional connection doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't come with warning signs or clear labels. Instead, it unfolds quietly, through subtle shifts in behavior, through changes in how someone speaks about themselves, and most importantly, through what they choose to reveal when they finally feel safe enough to let their guard down. And when a woman reaches that point, when she shares something she normally keeps buried, something personal, something emotionally sensitive, something tied to her fears, her past, her insecurities, or moments where she didn't feel strong or in control, that is not casual conversation anymore. That is not small talk. That is a moment where something internal has already changed. Because human beings, especially in emotional contexts, don't open those doors randomly. They open them when their nervous system has already started to associate a person with safety. And safety is not excitement. It is not charm. It is not attraction alone. It is the feeling of not needing to protect yourself in someone's presence. And that is where the deeper psychological shift begins. Because what most people call falling in love is actually a slow process of emotional association forming inside the brain, where someone stops being just another person and starts becoming a place of comfort, a mental reference point of safety and understanding. And this transition doesn't happen through grand gestures or loud declarations. It happens quietly in moments where vulnerability is either met with acceptance or met with misunderstanding. And when she shares something personal with you, something that makes her feel exposed even slightly, she is not just telling you a story. She is unconsciously observing your response, your tone, your silence, your emotional steadiness. Because in that moment, her mind is not focused on being impressive or composed. It is focused on one question alone: whether this person in front of me can handle the parts of me that I usually hide from the world. And that question is far more important than anything you might say in return. Because emotional bonding is not built on perfect replies. It is built on presence, on the ability to stay grounded when the conversation becomes real, when it stops being light and starts touching something deeper. And here's what happens psychologically that most men never realize. When someone shares vulnerability and feels safe afterward, the brain begins to link that person with relief, with emotional release, and with a sense of being understood. And over time, that creates attachment. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually, like a slow emotional alignment that builds trust layer by layer. And once that trust starts forming, everything changes in how she experiences your presence. Because she is no longer just interacting with you socially, she is now internally categorizing you as someone who understands her emotional world. And that is where feelings deepen in a way that words alone cannot explain. But here is the part that gets misunderstood most often. She is not consciously planning this. She is not analyzing it logically in the moment. She is simply feeling whether she is safe or not, whether she is being accepted or judged, whether she is being heard or corrected. And those small reactions from you matter far more than any carefully constructed response. Because emotional safety is fragile. It can be strengthened in seconds and weakened just as quickly. And when she opens up about something personal, maybe a fear she carries, a past experience that hurt her, or a moment where she felt not enough, she is essentially placing something emotionally delicate into your hands and watching how you handle it. Not with intensity, but with subtle awareness. And this is where many people unintentionally lose connection without even realizing it. because they feel pressure to respond perfectly, to fix the emotion, to solve the problem, to lighten the mood, or to say something clever. But emotional depth does not respond to performance, it responds to steadiness. Because when you try too hard to fix or impress, the underlying message often becomes that discomfort must be removed quickly, instead of simply being understood. And when you avoid it completely or shift the focus away, it can create a feeling of emotional distance, not because of what you said specifically, but because of what was not emotionally held in that moment. And what truly builds connection is not solving, not entertaining, not controlling the direction of the conversation, but simply staying present, listening without interruption, allowing silence when needed, and responding in a way that shows understanding rather than correction. And sometimes the most powerful responses are the simplest ones, like acknowledging what she shared, or recognizing that it must have been difficult. Because those responses do not overpower the moment, they support it. And in that support, something very important begins to form. A sense that she does not need to protect every part of herself around you. And when that feeling grows consistently over time, emotional attachment starts to build beneath the surface in a very natural way, because human beings are wired to move toward environments where they feel emotionally safe, not just excited, not just entertained, but understood. And this is also why timing and consistency matter so much, because one good response is not enough to create deep trust, but repeated experiences of emotional safety create a pattern in her mind that begins to define who you are in her emotional landscape. And eventually, you stop being just someone she talks to and start becoming someone she associates with calmness, stability, and understanding. And once that association forms, it influences how she thinks about you even when you are not present. Because memory in emotional experiences is strongly tied to feeling, not just facts. And she begins to remember how she felt in your presence rather than just what was said. And that is where deeper connection quietly grows, not through persuasion or effort, but through emotional consistency that makes her feel secure enough to continue opening up over time. And the more she does, the more trust is reinforced. And the more trust is reinforced, the stronger the attachment becomes, until eventually it reaches a point where she naturally starts valuing your presence differently. Not because of anything dramatic you did, but because of how emotionally safe she consistently feels around you. And this is why understanding this dynamic changes everything, because it shifts focus away from trying to impress and towards something much more meaningful, which is being stable enough to handle real human emotion without fear, without discomfort taking over, and without turning vulnerability into something that needs to be avoided. And when you can stay grounded in those moments, when you can listen without rushing, respond without overcomplicating, and remain emotionally steady even when the conversation becomes deep or personal, something powerful happens silently. Trust deepens, emotional resistance lowers, and connection becomes more natural. And over time, that is what creates the feeling of closeness that people often misunderstand as something sudden, when in reality it was built slowly, through moments that most people overlook. And that is why this single type of moment, when she opens up about something personal, becomes one of the most important turning points in any emotional connection, because it reveals far more about the future of that bond than anything surface level ever could. And if it is handled with presence, calmness, and understanding, it becomes the foundation for something much deeper than attraction alone, something that feels stable, meaningful, and lasting in a way that words can't fully describe. But if it is dismissed, minimized, or emotionally ignored, the connection doesn't always break immediately. It simply starts to fade quietly from the inside, even if everything still looks normal on the surface. And that is the part most people never notice until it is already too late.